Over the past 77 days, I've been filming everything from my workouts, cardio, and nutrition in order to show you guys my transformation from being the biggest I've ever been at the end of my bulk to the leanest I've ever been at the end of my cut. Here's how I did it. Starting things off, let's just take a quick look at the time frame. Just to recap, I bulked for 6 months last year, starting in September all the way through February of this year. That's 6 months of muscle building mania right there, baby, which led to an increase of about 10 pounds. Now, I made a couple videos just recapping that, so if you're interested, then make sure to go check those out too. Links in description. But basically after that point, it was the end of February and it was time to get diced. I mean like really diced, more than I've ever been before. I've cut a few times in the past and got decently lean, but let me tell you something, I've never been this lean before, ever. Anyways, the cut started on March 1st and went all the way through May 18th. That's 2.5 months of summer shredding, and let me tell you something, it worked. Basically, I changed my regimens of lifting, cardio, and nutrition on a bi-weekly basis. That's 2 weeks for all you youngins out there, which means out of the 11 weeks I was cutting, I'd alter my training about 4 or 5 times. Let's get to the breakdown. Starting off with the lifting, let me show you what my weightlifting routine looked like. Now, as I've mentioned throughout the series, make sure you go watch it. I follow a push-pull legs training program that runs twice per week starting on Monday. Push just means every muscle group that you use for pushing motions, so chest, shoulders, and triceps. Pull is for pulling motions, which would be back and biceps. And then, of course, there's leg day, or what I like to refer to as hell day, because let's face it, my legs are always in a constant state of pain between all the lifting I do, all my tricking and stunts, and then my mixed martial arts practice on the side, but whatever. Anyways, this was my training split for the entire duration of the cut, and it didn't really get changed. Now, like I mentioned, it starts on Monday and repeats on Thursday, so that leaves me a 7th day, Sunday, for whatever I want. Sometimes I take a rest day if I need it, other days I use it for muscle groups that I feel are lagging. Really whatever I want. Now, the important thing about the lifting schedule is that I didn't change the volume from when I was bulking. Now, some people are under the impression that because you're cutting and trying to get leaner and more defined and whatever, that you need to drop the workout volume, but that's actually the worst thing you can do for muscle retention. I'll get into it in another video, but think about it. If you get used to lifting crazy amounts of volume and then you drop it all of a sudden, do you think you're going to be able to hold on to the same amount of muscle? Anyways, let's look at the cardio. Now, this was something that needed to be changed on a bi-weekly basis, and there's a pretty simple progression for that. So the first 2 weeks I was cutting, I didn't use cardio at all, just a calorie deficit, which I'll get into next. I started weeks 3 and 4 with just 2 light cardio sessions a week, we'll say about 15 minutes per session, which would be about 30 minutes total. Then weeks 5 and 6 were progressed to about 60 minutes per week, which consisted of 1 intense session and 2 lighter ones. Weeks 7 and 8 got increased to about 90 minutes per week, which was basically just 2 heavy sessions and 2 light sessions. And then honestly, from weeks 9 to 11, I just tried to run a little bit every single day to avoid having one big cardio session that would tire me out. I'd say I probably ended around 100 to 115 minutes of cardio per week, which really isn't too bad. Okay, now the biggest and most crucial part of any successful body transformation, the dieting. Nutrition is extremely important and finicky, especially when it comes to getting this lean, so let's break it down week by week. First off, you need to understand that fat loss simply occurs based on a simple equation of calorie expenditure throughout the day that looks kind of like this: calories in versus calories out. This means that if you take in more calories through eating than the amount of calories that you put out through exercise per day, you'll be in what's called the calorie surplus, and that will cause fat gain. But if you burn more calories in a day than what you eat, you'll be in a calorie deficit, which causes fat loss. Now, I'll make another video in the future explaining more about this, but for now, you should get the gist. The average amount of calories that my body burns in a day, also known as your maintenance level, was about 21 to 2200 at my peak bulk, weighing around 146 pounds. So, starting off, weeks 1 and 2, I dropped down to 1900 calories with no cardio, as stated before. This was around a 300 calorie deficit total. Again, this was a gradual progression, and I didn't really change anything until about week 5 or 6, which I dropped down to 1800 calories. Again, this increased my deficit to about 400 with just the nutrition alone. It was definitely more like 5 to 600 with the cardio side effects added in there. I ended up staying around 1800 calories per day, which was honestly pretty manageable until the last week, which I dropped to 1700. That was pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie, and there were also some side effects, which I'll get into next, but hopefully this gave you a pretty good idea of what my dieting looked like. Oh, also, Protein, 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 baby. Super important. How could we forget about the macronutrient breakdown? Protein is super important in general for muscle building, but even more so when you're in a deficit because your body doesn't have extra calories to help with protein synthesis. So, general rule of thumb is that you want to be eating at least 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight a day. In my case, I try to eat around 1 gram per pound of body weight a day, which comes out to around 140 grams in total. This didn't really change at all throughout the 11 weeks, and carbs and fats are honestly fair game in my opinion. Some people set targets for them, but I don't. As long as I hit my protein target for the day, the rest of my calories are just spent on whatever I'm really in the mood for. So some days it's going to be something a little more carby like chips or some sugary snacks or something. Other days I just want something with more fat in it, like peanut butter or ice cream, whatever. I basically just did what my body seemed to be craving, and that helped keep the other cravings away. Speaking of that, let's get into the side effects, shall we? People seem to think that being this lean is something you can just walk around looking like all day, every day, and the truth is, nah fam. Sure, there are some people with crazy physiques that make mine look like trash that probably do walk around every day looking like this, but for the most part, it's not all that fun. Think about it for a second. You've spent 11 weeks, almost 3 months, eating in a decently sized deficit, doing lots of draining cardio on top of your normal lifting schedule. And for me personally, I also had full-time school, exams, 3 part-time jobs I was doing, running this channel, my Instagram, tricking, all at the same time. It gets exhausting, and being that depleted only makes it worse. So the first negative effect is definitely just feeling tired and not 100%. Besides that, you also have cravings, like bad cravings, the kind where as soon as you start eating, you don't stop until you're literally in a food coma because you force yourself to develop an eating disorder. This is why I allow myself to eat junk food as long as it fits into my calories for the day, because it really does help to prevent something like that from happening. But shit happens, and I did cheat a couple times, but it honestly wasn't too bad. Another weird thing that happens that you just don't think about is you get cold all the time. Like, it's kind of weird, but at that low body fat, you really do get colder way more often, and I was freezing all the time by the end of it. Weird, I know. Besides that stuff though, the other main effects are going to be a decrease in strength and size, which I actually didn't start noticing until the last 2 weeks or so. But again, that's why it's important to keep your training volume up and lifting heavy weights, because as soon as you stop doing that, you're going to start losing muscle way quicker. Anyways, that's just a nice little look at how I went from 146 pounds at the end of my bulk to around 137.5 at the end of my cut. And I know you might be thinking, only 137? I thought you started the bulk at 136. And the answer is yeah, but no. I can get more into it in another video, but when I was 136 pounds and started the bulk, I wasn't that nearly as lean as I am now. That means that the 136 pounds were more fat and less muscle compared to where I am now, 137.5, with less fat and more muscle. So not only did I successfully gain some weight after 8.5 months, but I also lost fat and am much leaner now at a heavier weight than last summer. But that's about gonna do it for this video, so if you liked it, make sure you give it a like and subscribe. It took a lot of work off and on camera to go through this transformation and create these videos, especially this one and the last few for you guys, so I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. Making our way to 1K this year, baby. Let's see if we can get there by the end of summer. Anyways, thanks for watching, and as always, I hope y'all have a good one, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!
Should take it slow.